What was the slope we found for number 1, Colin?
Negative.
Negative.
Negative 3 over 4.
And who else got negative 3 over 2? I think majority of us. If you got negative 6 over 4, make sure you're simplifying that all the way down. Some of you just counted, which was great. Some of you used the formula, which was also great. Doesn't matter when you see things like that. I will say using the formula when you're given the graph is probably more work than you need to do, but it all works the same. Questions about that one? And then number 2, it said this graph shows the line x equals negative 3. Describe the slope of the line. I do see your hand. I'm going to let Erin answer this one now. Undefined. If we had to describe this line, we could say it's vertical. There isn't a horizontal change. There is a vertical change. Things like that. Right. Did we have, any other questions on this page we wanted to see? Maybe we checked it. Or want to check our answers, had questions on how to start it, anything like that? 3. Okay. Any others? Alright, we'll do 3. And then, make sure I have this out. Okay. So for 3, they're asking about the slope. We can't say what that is just quite yet until we get y by itself. The easiest way to do that is to take the 2 bits, flip it, and multiply that on both sides. But when we multiply it to the other side, we're multiplying it to everything. So what happens is these cancel, just become y. And then we're multiplying the 5/2 to 2 and to 4. I'm going to write it out and then simplify it. So 2 times 5 would give us 10. 5 times 4 would give us 20. And then we could simplify it. Y equals 5x plus 10. Now that everything is simplified, y is by itself. If I asked you what the slope is, you would say 5. Questions on that one? Alright. Okay. The easiest way to deal with fractions like this is to multiply by the reciprocal, is what that's called. So where you take the fraction, you flip it, and you multiply it on both sides. Because if you were to, I'm going to rewrite this first before I finish with that sentence. In general, these 2 things are multiplying, so we would want to divide it, right? But if I start dividing by this fraction, it doesn't look as nice. So in your calculator, if you did this, what it's actually going to do is take this, flip it, and multiply it. So we're just doing that step instead. Okay. Good question. Number 5 is more complex than really anything else, and it's combining multiple things into one thing, but I'll still show you how it would work. So we know that this is our slope. So we're going to use these points to find the slope, or find what A is. So I'm going to label these as x1, y1, x2, y2, and set up my formula that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it would look something like this. 5 minus a over 4a minus 2 equals 1/2, because we know at the end it's supposed to equal our slope. Because we are now trying to figure out what a is, this has become a proportion, or fractions that equal. So now we're actually going to solve this like we would before and cross multiply. So this would be 2 times R5 minus A, and 1 times R4A minus 2. Going back to our first unit, things we were doing before. Distribute, so we have 10 minus 2A, 4A minus 2. Get all of your A's on the same side, does not matter how you choose to do that. And all the constants on the opposite. So let's move 2A over by adding, and move 2 over by adding. And then we have 12 equals 6A. Divide both sides by 6. And the answer to the problem that we're looking for is 2 equals A. But we want to make sure that this works, that we didn't just solve it and get an answer and it doesn't actually work. So we're going to take that answer and we're going to put it back in for all of our A's and make sure our slope works. So 5 minus 2 over 4 times 2 minus 2. And then simplify and see if it's the same. So this would give us 3 over 8 minus 2, which would be 3 over 6, which simplifies to be 1/2. So I can say that works. And the answer to this problem is 2. A equals 2. As I said, this one was a lot more complex than I really wanted it. But that would be the process for it. Do you have questions on that one? Or any others on this page? Hold on to this, because the one on the back, we're going to do that sometime next week. We are going to, so when we write equations, there are so many different ways to do it, or variations of it. One is from graphs, writing when you're given slope and y-intercept, converting slope and a point, and then 2 points. So we're not going to go through all of that today, but we're going to go through a good majority of it. Of all of those, this is one of the easier ones. So we have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Once we figure out what those two things are, we're going to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, which is what? Y equals mx plus b. So in this, I like to find the y-intercept first because it's kind of easier than finding the slope. The hardest part about this is finding your points, and then it kind of works out from there. So the y-intercept is wherever it crosses your y-axis. On this, it's a little hard, but it should be right there. So your y-intercept would be what? -3. And then we just have to find another point. So going back to what we did Monday, find another point on there. There is one drawn for you, but it's kind of blurry. So if you didn't see that one, there are others on there. And count your slope. Remember, go up or down first, and then left or right. What would that slope be? 3 over 1, and then always simplify, so just 3. And then we would put those two numbers together in your equation. Y equals our slope first, so 3, and then our x, and then our y-intercept, minus 2. For this section, this doesn't get much harder than this. Being able to find the slope, the y-intercept, write it out. Do you have any questions on that so far? Let's do it. For number 2, again, the points are a little blurry, but if we're looking for our y-intercept, it is right there. So our y-intercept would be at what? 2. And then there is another point drawn for you. This is that one, but you could probably use this one also where the arrow ends. Count your slope. Be careful with your counting. What would you get? -3/2, because we're going down and to the right. Only one of those things is negative. And then we can put those both in an equation. Y equals -3/2 x plus 2. We'll do one last one before lunch. Yeah, because we have one more. Sometimes you won't be given these lines, but you can still write it off to the side. For number 3, what would your y-intercept be? 2. So I can say off to the side, b equals 2. And then we have to find another point. Do you see one? Aaron? There's one right here. There's also one that crosses the grid line right there as well. So if we counted that slope, it would be what? Go up and down first. So even if you're going this way, so it would be 2 fifths. Yeah. So our m would be 2 fifths, and then we would put it together. Y equals 2 fifths x plus 2. Right. Then when we come back from lunch, we'll go over practice problems. I want you to look through numbers 4, 5, 6 on this page, 7 through 14 on the back page, or the very last page, 19 through 24, not 23, we'll talk about that in a bit. Any of those, what questions do we have? We want to go over, we want to check. There you go. Any of those we have questions on, want to check, go over, anything like that? If not, we're going to move on to the next section. If you see a question later that maybe you were trying and you're not sure about, just raise your hand. We can go back to that. Go to this next page. Write this down somewhere on there. Your horizontal lines have 0 slope and are y equals. Your vertical lines have undefined slope and are x equals. So this is still writing equations from a graph, but these will just be vertical or horizontal lines, but they'll be mixed in. So you have to be able to see which type it is and then still write the equation. So if I have a vertical line, this one right here. Vertical tells me I'm over here with the books. This is going to be an x equals. And I'm looking for where this vertical line crosses your x-axis. point is the number we're going to put. So here it would cross the x-axis at 3. And this would be your equation of this line. It's just going to be x equals a number or y equals a number when we do the other one. It's not really going to be in the format of y equals mx plus b. What I don't want you to get confused by, because I've seen this in the past, this is asking for the equation. So equation is x equals or y equals depending on what it is. Usually y equals with everything, but x equals if it's vertical. It's not asking about the slope. Slope would be undefined, m equals undefined. Writing the equation is x equals 3. So those are two different things. Make sure you're paying attention to the directions. If it says find the slope, that would be a different answer. If it says write the equation of the line or the graph, you would get x equals 3. So just keep those separate in your mind.
And that's why it's really important to keep that way buck somewhere on your paper, so that way you know exactly which equation should it look like.
The horizontal line is then opposite. We are looking at this line right here. And we're trying to figure out where that line crosses our y-axis. Y equals -1. Perfect. So I want you to look at the following 1 through 6 and number 23 on that very last page. I think that was 23. Yes. Do we want to see any of those, go over any of those, have questions about any of those? Questions on any of those? If you don't have questions, go on to the next page. And it's like, doesn't want to do it. There we go. Okay. So this is almost the exact same page that we did in slope. So we're not going to go through a whole lot of these, but any you have questions on, I am going to fill this part in. Y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope, y is our y-intercept, and then ax plus by equals c. I know we did a lot of these, like Monday. I don't remember which ones we did or did not do. But if I said for number 4, it gives you the slope and the y-intercept, what would the equation, the slope-intercept format be? How would I put those two things together to make this form? For number 4. Number 4. Aaron. Y equals -1x or negative plus 7. Either of those, y equals -1x plus 7 or y equals -x plus 7, either or. Do we want to go over any others in this section or on the second to last page, numbers 1 through 6? Yes.
So for number 5, do you have to put the +0? Or can you just leave it off?
You can do either or. It does not matter. So you can put y equals 1/4 x plus 0. Or y equals 1/4 x. Both of those would be right. Any other questions from this section or the second to last page, numbers 1 through 6? That we want to see, go over, have questions about? going back to this, remember that if it's in this format, we need to change it so it's in slope-intercept form. So let's say we did 6. What would be our first step to get y by itself? Aaron? Okay, and remember that there are always 2 different ways to go about doing this, either move x or move y, then you have to move stuff back. So if we subtract 3x on both sides, we're left with negative 2y equals, remember that we rearranged this so that the x term comes first. And then what would be there? Right, everything, so every single thing we have to divide by negative 2 because some things could simplify, some things could not. These would cancel, just become y. These negatives would cancel to becoming positive, but 3 over 2 would become just a fraction because it's not a whole number. Put x next to it. This would give you a negative, your sign would change, 7. Questions about that or any others in this section? I don't think there are more of those in these notes, but there are more in the slope notes. Any others we want to see, go over, have questions about? You guys are like making me nervous because I'm not asking questions. Okay, this next part, I want you to write this down. This is called your point slope formula. If you want to put a name to what it's called. This will also be something you need to remember. So you need to know in slope, your slope formula, slash what the slope-intercept form looks like. In writing, you need to know what the slope-intercept form looks like, but also know this formula. We're going to use it to kind of convert it back to our slope-intercept form. So in this formula, this y, this x, those are just variables, y and x. So those are always going to stay y and x. The y1, the x1, and the m, those are all going to get replaced. Okay, so keep that in mind. Again, I'm a visual person, so I need to see like what everything is. For me, I would label these x1, y1, and then my slope I know is m. If that helps you, do that. If you feel like you don't need to do that, then you don't have to. And then we're going to take each number and put it into the formula. So we're going to start off y, just the variable. We are always subtracting no matter what, just like slope. Our y1 is 1, equals our m is 3. Parentheses, the variable x, we're always subtracting no matter what. And then our x1 is 2. Not yet. There's more to it. Right? After we put everything in, we want to get this back into slope-intercept form. So we're going to do a couple things to it. 1, distribute the 3. So we have 3x minus 6. Be careful with your signs. And then if I needed to get y by itself, what would I do? Add 1. So y equals 3x minus 5. This would be my final answer. So now it's in slope-intercept form. It already gave you the slope, so that wouldn't be like a what is the slope question, but do we have any questions about that process or how we got that? let's do another one. I'm gonna skip over number 2, but if we want to come back to it, we can, and try 3. So same thing, let's label everything, or I'm gonna label everything, x1, y1, m. And then we're gonna put everything back into the formula. Our variable y minus, now here we have a negative, so I'm gonna put that in parentheses. And then equals, my slope is -1, parentheses, my variable x, and then minus my x1. So I'm still going to distribute like I did before, but I also want to combine the negative and the subtraction side and make a plus. So I'm going to do that at the same time. Y plus 7 equals -1x plus 4. And then to get y by itself. So y equals -1x minus 3 or -x minus 3, either or. Make sure you're boxing in that answer, whatever that is. That way I know that's your final answer. Do you have any questions about how we got that, Paige?
Why did you put +7?
There's like the negative and the negative. Yeah. Okay. So anytime you see the negative and negative, make it a plus. Just like with slope, you would make it a plus and then go from there. All right. Look at numbers 2, 4, 5, 6, or on the second to last page, this section, 7 through 12. Which of those do we want to see have questions about?
For number 2 on this one, is it okay if you can change the word half and make it a decimal? Alright.
For our slope, we want it in fraction form. Y-intercept can be decimal, but slope we want in fraction form. So if you change it to decimal while you're working, at the very end, you'd have to change it back. So yes, you can, but you have to change it back. Do we want to see, go over, have any questions about 2, 4, 5, 6, or 7 through 12? Not the right page. Number 7. Yeah, I was going to do that if no one asked about it. So number 7 is a special type. When you see things like this, it's not going to be the same because anything over 0 is undefined. I can't put that into a formula. So when you see this, you should immediately be thinking koi bucks. I'm going to write that off to the side. I have an undefined slope. So I'm still writing my equation, so I know that's going to be at x equals. And then I have to look to my ordered pair. Here, this would be like your x1. So that's going to give you the answer you need for this type of problem. X equals -4. So there's really no work to do. You have to know undefined is x equals, and then that would give me my answer. If this was 0, you could do the work or do this process. Either would work. And I would give you credit for either. Do you have questions about this one or anything else? You guys make me nervous. I believe in you. I just don't know if we think this is easy and then we don't have any questions. But how do we feel about writing equations so far? Good. Okay. I need more practice. Not good. I don't understand.
A couple thumbs up.
See some okays. I see a lot more goods than okays, but alright. We are actually not going to do that second part today. Everything here we're going to do on Tuesday. So for the remainder of class, you guys have time to practice. Any question we did not just go over, to include the very last page, the ones in the notes, you can be working on any of those, on all of the pages we just did. Or if you have not done the 3 Khan Academy that is due today, you can be working on that, get help on those. Or a mixture of both. We'll be coming around if you have any questions or if you felt okay, we can go through more of them.